Hey guys, what's up? It's me, MC Matador here, and today I am bringing you another Top X countdown. I haven't done one of these since Dollywood, all the way back in September or October. I also want to so today I'll be doing the top five coasters at Kentucky Kingdom. It's only five because I didn't choose to ride roller skater, which is their Vekoma Junior slash family coaster, which I don't count as a credit. It's identical to Sprocket Rockets at Six Flags Great America, as well as I think it's Roadrunner Express or Wiley Coyote Canyon, one of the kiddie coasters. I think the largest kiddie coaster at Magic Mountain. It's a carbon copy of that. I also want to say that if you haven't noticed already, I'm trying to get some sort of consistency in my channel. I'm not fully keen on the fact that I'm uploading only once a week, but I am trying to get videos out every Friday. I have a lot of time. It's not gonna. It might happen a little day earlier, day late next week because I go on spring break at the end of next week. Um, and I just wanted to kind of tell you that I'm planning on doing some sort of consistency. If I can get a video up every Friday and keep it going for a while, I think I'll be pretty good and just keep my numbers up and just hopefully you guys maybe will tune in more. I don't know. I've been trying to get a consistent schedule on the channel for a long time, and now that I'm in university and I don't have to nothing's gone to hell yet, I can just probably maybe even try and work on it at the moment. It's not hard to create these and record the video raw because I'm rudimentary. This is a back burner of my life. Anywho, that's enough about my life injunction and film sequencing, and let's get right into the featured content. The worst coaster by far at Kentucky Kingdom is T3. Only the third Vekoma SLC I was ever burdened to ride. And this one provided a unique way of pain, just a unique way to inflict pain that I had not really previously felt by pretty much any other coaster. Mind Eraser at Six Flags America was my first SLC, which it had bulky over-the-shoulder restraints that covered your ears, and that led to gratuitous headbanging. With Mind Eraser and Riddler Revenge, I rode both iterations at Six Flags New England. The Mind Eraser feature was exactly like the Mind Eraser at Six Flags America, and Riddler Revenge has transitions that were about as wacky as you can expect on a mid-90s Vekoma coaster. With D3, this one features shoulder straps, much like Riddler's Revenge at Six Flags New England. But this time, they went with a third-party manufacturer instead of the Vekoma proper suspended or inverted coaster over the shoulder restraints, which the little bulky lap bar that goes over your shins keeps pressing down on you as the ride goes around, trying to amputate your legs. This is not an uncommon complaint for this ride, and I side with those people who say that this is probably the most unique way I've ever heard a coaster inflict pain on me. I didn't think it'd be that bad. I know I've been on Skyrush and it didn't really hurt me all that much. I mean, only at the end, but even then they give you a bit of relief. No, this one was just bad. Everything about it was bad. And there's also the signature mid-90s Vekoma transitions, and with the bonus of this being standing but not operating for half a decade. So there's just an extra bonus level of suckitude in this. Bottom line, get rid of this. Bulldoze it, replace it with something affordable. An affordable steel looping coaster. A Gerstlauer Infinity would be excellent at this park. It's a burden in an otherwise great lineup of coasters, because this is the only coaster in the park, other than maybe Roller Skater, that is bad. This one's not just bad, it's awful. This thing is bad. I was with my younger brother and my younger cousin, who are frequent travel partners of mine for the out-of-state vacations, and those two refused to ride this thing. I was kind of going on about how I didn't look forward to getting the credit, and those two prefer not to ride coasters they know will inflict pain on them. I was doing this for the press and the credit collection, and it's a one and done. This thing, just get the credit. If it's your first SLC, you have to experience it just to see how bad these things are, and just move on. This thing is... It also only runs one train. I don't know where the other train went. There's supposedly a second train somewhere, but I don't know where it went. Maybe they're already trying to kill it. I don't know. This thing had probably the longest line of the day. Other than maybe... This is something I decided not to do. But of the rides I got, this was the longest line I had all day. And it was barely a station wait, because it was running one train and the operations weren't all that good. These restraints suck, this ride sucks, and, well, just everything about T3 sucks. It's just not good. Moving on, we have number 4, Kentucky Flyer. Forgive me for saying this, because one, I only got one ride on this, on the back row, and two, I was honestly quite let down. I heard great things about these Gravity Group mini wooden coasters. I had never been on one myself. Some examples would include Wooden Warrior at Quasi, Oscar's Wacky Taxi, or Rorosaurus in Storybook Land in New Hampshire. They're an up and coming model, and this is the biggest park to have bought one of these models, these Gravity Group family wooden coasters. I heard good praise about decent airtime laterals, but nothing too extreme that would deter kids from riding it. But I I walked off barely feeling anything. It felt sluggish. It didn't really have the airtime or laterals that I had expected it to be. I don't know if I made expectations my own demons for this thing. Maybe I'd been conditioned by the airtime because it was the last of the 5 coasters that I got the new credit for, other than before re-rides. Maybe it was because the train was half empty, like only rows 1, 2, and 5 were filled. Or like, yeah, essentially, like only 3 of the 5 rows were filled, or like 5 of the 10 seats. These trains are not very long at all. Or maybe it's 6 rows. It's like 1, 2 in the back were filled, essentially. So this thing may not have been running at optimum speed. It's not the weather. I rode this thing mid-afternoon for the first time, and it was hot out, like 85, 90 degrees, and sunny. So I wasn't concerned about the weather. I don't know. I still think this is a very good ride. I like what it does. If this thing this thing serves a purpose in the park. It fills in a lineup that fills in a gap between Roller Skater and Thunder Run, which you'll see later on. This thing is a more mild wooden coaster and far less extreme than the 3 spots above this. And I really like how it fills in the gap. It's quite popular with young kids, from what I can tell, and it has a very generous heart requirement for them to where even certain 4 or 5-year-olds can get on this thing easily. I apologize for this thing not reaching my admittedly high expectations, but it's still a good ride, and I would definitely ride it again when I revisit, or eventually revisit, which is far more than I'll say about T3. Moving on, we have one of the sleeper hits on my 2019 road trip, Thunder Run. Old school wooden coaster providing a fast-paced, forceful, airtime-packed experience that I honestly didn't see coming. Like, this thing genuinely surprised me. I don't know. I didn't expect this thing to be this good. I only got one ride on this thing, sadly, towards the front, because they were only running one train on this thing. I think some of these photos here that I used are older. But when I went, it was running one train all day, and from what I've been hearing, it might only ever run one train. I don't know if there's any field research that can help me confirm that. Did this thing ever run 2 trains during the 2019 season? If it did, when? And if they didn't, when are they going to put 2 trains in this thing? Because I would love to get more rides in this thing if if I could. This thing was a 20-minute wait for a station wait, because, yeah. And it only got longer. Like, it probably was over 45 minutes, an hour at some point, while the next 2 spots were no more than 20 minutes all day. So, yeah. Like I said, I got my one ride near the front, and I absolutely loved it. The drop into the low to the ground bank turn is a great way to just use up your speed and pull some decent positive G's. The airtime on the out and back volleys were absolutely... They took me off guard. I'd ridden Hurler at Carowinds, which is pretty close to this thing. But this thing blew Hurler out of the water in terms of force and airtime. It did run a bit rougher than Hurler, but it's still pretty smooth, especially for a Din wooden coaster. I was honestly super surprised about how this ride packed so much force and speed into a rather unassuming wooden coaster. I enjoyed this thing more than I thought I would, and I would love to get more rides in this thing. My one ride on this was not enough, and I crave another ride, or maybe 5 on this thing. It's just, this thing is just, it blew me away. I'm looking at that layout in the bottom right corner. I didn't remember the airtime hills were like lateral infused as well. And I gotta get on this thing again. This thing's awesome. Moving on, we have number 2, Lightning Run. I beg a common question with this thing. Why are there not more of these? Why are there not more of these being built? This is an excellent choice for a compact, thrilling, crowd-pleasing coaster on a budget. It's a bucking bronco from start to end, in any row. Front, back, middle, I did it everywhere. And this thing provides a buffet of negative and lateral g-forces. And this is another coaster. I did expect it to be good, but I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. I knew this thing would be easily in my top 25, rivaling upscale B&Ms along the lines of Tatsu, or like along the lines of Tatsu, Raptor, Montu, things currently in my low to mid 20s. Maybe even potentially knocking off like its ceiling for me was like 15, but this thing went above and beyond. It's even beating out certain RMCs like Goliath, Twisted Colossus, and even Wicked Cyclone for being just amazing. I think this thing and Wicked Cyclone are probably the closest match I can think of. It's just a twister, compact layout full of negative G's, lateral G's, bank turns. There's everything in this thing, and it's the restraints aren't bad. This thing is just inexplicably one of a kind. And if you live in the Midwest, Southeast, or even anywhere in the United States and you're in the area, especially if you're doing a Midwest gauntlet, just ride this thing. Ride it multiple times. I know I rode this over 5 times in my day, probably close to like 7 to 10. It's I couldn't get enough of this thing. This thing is way better than I ever thought it would be. I did have high expectations, but it blew those away. Since I had never had anything like it, and I really want to see more of these being built for parks on a budget with an airtime deficit. I can even see Great America benefiting from one of these, and that's a super large park. But it's been like what, 5, 6 years now since this thing was built, and we haven't seen another Chance GTX. So I'm gonna keep my expectations low for another one of these being built, but I'll still remain hopeful. Just build more of these, please. This thing is excellent, and the more people that ride it, the more people that will agree with that sentiment. This thing is just superb. And finally, the number 1 coaster at Kentucky Kingdom, by process of deduction, you probably would figure it out, or by common sense and my preferences, if you know me, you'd figure out it's Storm Chaser, the crown jewel of Kentucky. This thing is a RMC conversion of the former Twisted Twins wooden coaster. Or yeah, I think it's Twisted Twins. It was called Twisted Sisters at one point, but that was like copyright, or it might have been the other way around. I don't know. It was a former dueling wood. I think it was CCI, or maybe I think it was CCI wooden coaster. It had a bit of a rocky start because this thing was synonymous with pacing issues early in its life, but through some good maintenance and aggressive engineering, some better parts, this thing is the second most airtime packed RMC I've ever ridden. It has more airtime than Outlaw Run, Goliath, Twisted Colossus, and even Lightning Rod. It comes second only to the airtime king itself, Steel Vengeance. This thing will torment you the whole ride. Barrel roll drop, massive sustained ejector on the camelbacks, twisted airtime hills, the meme-worthy, laughable trick track double up, which actually kicks your ass. Like, this thing is absolutely monstrous. The amount of variety and elements this thing will torment you with. Because that's just the airtime elements. There's also overbank turns, there's the barrel roll drop, there's a 0G roll. It's just, this thing is absurd. My most expensive mistake as well, and my roller coaster history. I've been riding roller coasters for probably close to 12 years at this point. And this coaster claimed my biggest soul. This thing put me most in the red of any coaster. I had a $45 17,000 milliamp hour portable charging brick that flew out of my cargo shorts on the second massive camelback, the one after the 2 twisted airtime hills and that overbank where the train is in the bottom right corner. I had never lost anything. It flew right out of the lower pocket of my cargo shorts, as I couldn't fit it in my main pocket with my phone and charging cable, as well as some loose change. And it just flew out of my cargo pants, over my head, and into the grass below, where it was unable to be recovered. I got a new portable charger. You don't have to send me money for that. If I don't even have a Patreon or Venmo or whatever, I have a new portable charger, and it's not It's less capacity, but it has a just it's more engineered for my type of phone. So yeah, I like before that portable charger, I had never lost any one of my possessions on this coast on a roller coaster ever. Maybe other than like that one. I mean, I've lost goods in an amusement park. I've lost drink cups. Sometimes I take my phone out of my pocket and I forget there's like $5 in there, and the $5 goes fluttering in the wind before I realize it. Maybe I've lost like a couple of pennies on a coaster before, like the change in my pocket. But I've been wearing zipper shorts to pockets, so or zipper shorts to theme parks, so I don't have to worry about this anymore. This thing ripped me of $45 that I got from the previous Christmas, and this thing will likely be the bounty hunter, the most expensive bounty hunt that I've ever had in a roller coaster, probably for a very long time. This ride is solidly in my top 10. Like, this thing was, I knew it was going to be good, but I was not expecting, like, top 10. It doesn't make my top 5, but it's in my top 10, and will likely remain there for a very long time. This thing is a premier roller coaster in the entirety of the United States. Much like Lightning Run, I recommend everyone experience this. Lightning Run and Storm Chaser are a legendary 1-2 punch that I would ride all day long. Actually, that's exactly what I did. Once I got my credits, I just kind of alternated on rides between Lightning Run and Storm Chaser until I started feeling lightheaded from all the negative G's I sustained. Yeah. This thing's pacing. I also want to mention the pacing with the aggressive engineering. This thing's pacing is absolutely absurd. There's no mid-course brake run. This thing doesn't let up. It does get a little slow in that final helix right after the trick track double up over the midway. But other than that, like everything that matters is taken at such a ridiculous pace. It does lose speed like in that final helix, but there's not really much there other than just that little pop of airtime into the brake run. I think I also prefer this in the back, but the front row ride in this is also really good. You get more hang time in the front, but the back has more sustained ejector airtime. But it's good in both rows, and if the line's open, just ride it there. I rode it in row front, back, and I also did row 11 when I took my younger brother and younger cousin on this for the first time. They also witnessed my portable charger fly out of my pocket and laughed at me, and then they felt bad once they realized it was mine. Anywho, that's enough about Kentucky Kingdom. That's the end of the countdown. There's no number 0. There's not another coaster being built as we speak. I haven't been back to change my opinions yet. This is being recorded in just shy of Leap Day 2020. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscription. If you didn't, do it anyway. I can't tell you what to do, though. And I hope you guys have a great insert unit of time here. For those of you who are also college students like me, midterms are upon us. So those who are doing midterms, best of luck. And as always, I wish you guys peace.